The following show is sponsored by your East Tennessee GMC dealers. From WVLT Sports and VolQuest.com, it's The Extra Point with Rick Russo and Brent Hubbs.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to another season of The Extra Point Show. I'm WVLT Sports Director Rick Russo, alongside my partner in crime, VolQuest.com editor Brent Hubbs. Now, Brent, it is VolQuest.com at On3. Tell the folks all that.
Yeah, we have made a transition and moved to a new platform. The folks at Rivals were great to us for 22 years, but the opportunity came about for us to move to the next generation, if you will, of web publishing, and that's with the guys at On3 that are based out of Nashville, and we moved there last Thursday morning at midnight, and the transition's gone great, and it's we think we're going to be able to provide a lot more to the subscribers and the consumers in a variety of different ways, whether it's a YouTube live show or podcasting or whatever the case may be. So we're excited about being there. We got a great offer for everybody out there right now. You can sign up for $1 for the entire year to check us out, and so hopefully people will do that. And what a great time for us to make the move, because man, I love college football.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We're going to talk about Tennessee, but yesterday, just to sit and be glued to the TV to watch from the noon games on, the agony, the joy, the just the mystifying things that occur. Yeah. It's just the game is just unbelievable. It's just the craziest, most unbelievable thing.
It really is, and later on in the broadcast, we'll talk more about the SEC, but I'm looking forward to what you guys will put out there this season with On3, no doubt about that, and I like your hip to the terms, next gen.
Next gen.
I like that.
I'm not sure, my kids tell me what that means. I'm not sure what it means. Sounds good, right?
It really
is
does.
what it is.
It really
obviously,
does.
We're excited to be back partnered up with you guys again, and
Thanks,
so lots of good things going on right now, and lots of good things going on for the Tennessee football team.
No doubt, and Brent, I thought Tennessee went into the season with what I called a healthy confidence, and why not? They're a good team. How good depends on how they play here the next few weeks. That'll yet to be determined, but I thought they were confident, and it showed right from the get-go.
Well, they took care of they did what they were supposed to
Right.
do. I mean, 59-10, you're supposed to beat a team by 35 points. They did what they were supposed to do. And in this day and age, you have to remind yourself that that's part of it. You know, you got to take care of business. So it helps when you bring a quarterback back, Rick. You know, we've sat at this desk for so many years, it feels like, and it's been since Josh Dobbs was coming back for that 2016 season.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I had that same kind of feel going into this season, the same kind of excitement going into 16 with Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, and it's all about the quarterback, and it's all about what Hendon Hooker can do. And it's not just his legs, it's his ability to throw, but it's his leadership. I mean, if you go back, it's a little play, and it's not one of our defining moments, but if you go back to the first offensive snap after the Tamarion McDonald interception, he gets to the line of scrimmage. Some guys aren't there fast enough for him, and he's immediately barking and getting things going. This is his football team, and obviously a year ago this time, we weren't sure what was going to happen at the quarterback spot. We thought it was going to be Joe Milton, and it didn't work out for Joe, and Hendon took over and grew as he went along. There's no doubt about whose football team it is right now, and that's Hendon Hooker's. And for college coaches everywhere, and at any level really of football, you've got to have a quarterback. When you've got one you believe in, then it gives you a lot of confidence going into a season.
Yeah, my partner in crime in WVLT, Zach Ricken, said he was very efficient, and that's what you want from a redshirt senior like that. Let's go ahead and take a look now at some of the stats from this past Thursday night's game. Tennessee's 59-10 win over Ball State. Brent, no second quarter doldrums. This time, Tennessee with 21 points in that second stanza, 38 by the half.
Yeah, and again, you do what you want to do, what you need to do. They got off to the great start. There's plenty of things to clean up, and there's a lot of things that will not transition from this first game into what you're going to see moving forward because of the way Ball State elected to play.
That's right.
I was a little surprised that they dropped 8 and rushed only 3 so many times. Clearly Ball State was like, we're not going to throw it over our head. You're not going to throw it over our head. And so Tennessee didn't have as many of those chunk plays.
And in turn, Tennessee rushed for 218 yards.
It tested Tennessee's patience, and Tennessee was patient. And that's the one thing that, the rushing numbers are pretty fascinating because there's a feeling and a vibe with Josh Heupel's offense that it's about throw it all the time, throw it all the time, throw it all the time. And they do throw it a lot. But the foundation of what they do is run the football. Right. I mean, this was the second leading rushing team in the SEC a year ago. bringing a lot of people back. So they feel like they're going to be able to run the football. They ran the football effectively. They created some turnovers, which was important. They got to tackle a little better. They've got to tighten some things up in the secondary. Plenty of things to work on in week one. But again, don't come out and let somebody hang around for a half, right? We've seen those games, those openers that you don't want to have happen. They did not allow that to happen this game.
Yeah, speaking of rushing the football, Jabari Small, 7 scores in his last 6 games. So that's very efficient as well. And Tennessee plus in the turnover game this past Thursday
and the turnover
night.
margin, which was important.
Which is
you
good.
know, that they want to continue to do that. I thought Kamal Hadden made a really nice play on an interception, and obviously Tamarion McDonald on the first play. The one thing on that stat sheet there that jumps out at me when I look at it, no, it's the 0 sacks at the bottom.
Well, that
and give Ball State some credit because they had Paddock back there, the quarterback, and they tried to protect him as much as they could. There was a lot of quick throws, get it out of his hands, but there were multiple 3rd and longer situations where Tennessee just couldn't get there. And we've talked, and there's been so much talk all season about their ability to get to the quarterback from the front 4, and that just they weren't as effective there as they need to be. That's got to improve moving forward.
Brent, without a doubt, one of the things that Tennessee was emphasizing during fall camp was tackling better, and certainly I thought they did that in the game the other night, but as you mentioned, they just couldn't quite get to number 5.
Yeah, and again, part of that was a good job by.
Although Omari Thomas,
he batted one down there, but give Ball State credit. They did a good job of getting it out of his hand quick. A lot of 3-step throws and go, and so when teams get into 3rd and long situations, 3rd and medium plus, can Tennessee get home? I think that's the big question. It was clear Ball State was not going to let the quarterback get hit, and I like Paddock. I mean, I know he threw the pick on the first play, and it was a bit of a slow start, but I thought he settled into a pretty nice rhythm, and they did a pretty nice job for him. He's going to be pretty effective in the MAC conference, I think, but Tennessee's got to find a way to get to the quarterback.
All right, folks, as we do each week, we start off with our defining moments. Time for that.
The Extra Point Moment of the Game, sponsored by your volunteer GMC dealers.
And Brent, here's a guy who's waited his turn, Tamarion McDonald in that Tennessee secondary, and he showed up right from the get-go on play 1 on defense.
Yep, giving assist to Aaron Beasley here with reading the play and having the pressure there. But good eyes by Tamarion McDonald. What's the old Coach Majors saying? Those who stay will play.
Right.
And congratulations to Tamarion McDonald. He has worked his way into the lineup by his play and special teams. And what an unbelievable way to start a game right there. Here you're going to get your first start at the star position, and you look up and here comes the ball to you. But a good read. He knew what was coming, and Aaron Beasley made it easy for him because Aaron Beasley's pressure there. I know we talked about not getting the quarterback sacks. He didn't get a sack there, but that pressure forced that throw, and Tamarion McDonald's eyes were in a great spot. He read it really well. When you're Tim Banks and you talk about all offseason, we got to pressure the quarterback, we got to generate more turnovers. You do those 2 things on play number 1, you're feeling pretty good sitting up there in the box.
Another interception, too, in the game by Kamal Hadden, too.
And he played the ball beautifully. I think Kamal Hadden's going to, if he can get healthy and stay healthy, we're going to see a lot more of him because I thought he was really effective. But, again, just an unbelievable start. The way you want to start a game is to get things going. You steal a possession there because, you get the extra possession, and then obviously Tennessee capitalized on it quickly.
And that would lead directly to a score, which is our defining moment number 2. Jalen Hyatt, the touchdown reception, catches it at about the 8 or so and then dives into the end zone. Brent, tough year for number 11 last year, and he starts strong in 2022.
Yeah, and again, there's one thing to talk the improvement and to talk the game. There's another thing to go out and to handle yourself the right way. And Jalen Hyatt, since the bowl game last year, has talked about his dedication to the game and his dedication to the program, openly acknowledging that it was not good enough last year, and that's part of the reason why Velus Jones took his job and he didn't get it back. And I've told this story multiple times. When last fall, when you went through the complex, if you bumped into Jalen Hyatt had a hood on and he had his eyes down looking at the floor. He didn't have anything to say to anybody, and he looked like a pretty down and out, pretty miserable human being. So what's the first thing you're thinking? Transfer portal, transfer portal.
Right.
And Jalen Hyatt never thought transfer portal. Instead, he talked extensively to Velus Jones before Velus Jones went off to the NFL and to train for the NFL. And Velus told him, said, this offense is tailor-made for you. You can do whatever you want to with it, but you've got to commit to doing it the right way. And Jalen Hyatt has done that. And as a result, you saw his effectiveness on play number 1. And I think you're going to continue to see him grow and continue to get better. He's in a great spot mentally right now.
He is, and what's impressive about him too is the majority or a lot of his catches are for 20-plus yards. So you're going to get a big chunk with him.
You are, and again, he's going to get some isolation situations in the middle of the field against safeties and linebackers, which should be something that works well. He did not get a lot of those looks because Ball State was playing so much zone. And so I think there's a lot more that they can do with Jalen Hyatt. I think Tennessee was pretty vanilla on Thursday night, as you would expect. But again, you just like kids who go to work. And that's where I'll give Jalen Hyatt all the credit in the world. He just went to work. And I think that says a lot about his growth and his maturity in the program. We talk about the word culture and all that stuff overused too many times. This is an individual that said, I want to play. And I need to do what I need to do to play, and he has gone about his business the right way.
All right, defining moment number 3, a very interesting play. You know, during the offseason, we talked about Jabari Small beefing up a little bit, but I thought really this was courtesy of his friends on the offensive line, Javonte Spraggins, Jerome Carvin and company, helping pull and push number 2 into the end zone.
Yeah, but I tell you what, if you go back and you look at that replay, you look at his leg drive.
Yeah, he's still driving.
And,
You're right.
And the way he's pushing there, I mean, he got help. There's no doubt that he got some help there at the end, but there was a lot of that on his own. I'm not sure Jabari Small could have done that a year ago. That's the extra 15 pounds. That's the extra weight room work. It's interesting, Jabari Small talked about the second half of the Ole Miss game last year, how he had to, he realized he was tired. He needed more girth. He needed more size. He was getting beat up. And he went and added the weight. Several guys on this team did. And I thought his leg drive there showed up big time. Again, he rode the offensive line, but his legs never stopped going, and I think that's a credit to his growth and development. Tennessee needs that because one of the bugaboos for this offense last year was short yardage situations. And you look at this run here, he had another run early in the game on a 3rd and 1 where his leg drive was good. The offensive line blocked it well. Tennessee was good in short yardage situations on Thursday night. Now it's Ball State. It's a small sample size. Everybody put the brakes on and hold on a minute. But this was a nice start for Tennessee for sure, and a good job by the offensive line to finish him off.
4th straight game for number 2, getting into the end zone for 6. All right, defining moment number 4, our last one. Hendon Hooker's touchdown pass. Hendon does a nice job rolling, avoiding the pressure, rolls out to his left, and hits Walker Merrill, the sophomore, with his first touchdown grab.
Yeah, and again, I'm not sure this is a play that Hendon Hooker makes a year ago. I think a lot of times right here, it's tuck and run a year ago. He tucks the ball away and tries to make the guy miss in the open field. One of the things that Joey Halsley talked about was how much better Hendon Hooker's eyes have gotten. He's moving defenders with his eyes. He didn't have to move a defender there, but because Hendon Hooker didn't just tuck it and drop his eyes looking at what was right in front of him, he kept his eyes up and looking and surveying the field. He found Walker Merrill streaking into the end zone there. Really nice play, really good patience by Hendon Hooker. You get moved off the spot by the pressure, but you don't just say, hey, I'm going to become a runner here. I may have something available for me. And he saw it before he tucked and ran. And again, I think that's the growth and maturity of Hendon Hooker. Good job by Walker Merrill to continue to run a route, continue to try to present himself as a target, and even better eyes by Hendon Hooker on that play.
No question. Hendon Hooker, 1 touchdown in 13 straight games, now tying Tony White. So that was
Tony White? Yeah. Tony Robinson.
Tony Robinson, rather.
Tony White.
My goodness.
Tony White. Now, Tony White made a lot of free throws, but he didn't
Am I
make a lot
moving
of
forward to
touchdown
basketball season already? Tony Robinson.
I think we're both telling everybody how old we are, which is not good.
Right. All right, good stuff by the Volunteers Thursday night. Now, many of you were at the game Thursday. Well, here's what the call sounded like, courtesy of our friends at the Vol Network.
Giant T, now it opens, and racing from the north end zone on opening night 2022 at Neyland Stadium. Here come the Tennessee Volunteers. They flip it back to the quarterback, and he throws it, and it's intercepted by Tennessee at the 23-yard line. To the boundary, they send Fant in motion, and now they're going to fake. They're going to fire. Wide open down at the 8-yard line. It's complete, getting to the goal line, and diving in is Jalen Hyatt for a Tennessee touchdown. Paddock under center. Quarterback sneak again, and I don't think he made it. 2nd and goal at the 1. This time Hooker's going to fake and keep it, roll around to the left, and dance into the checkerboard. Hooker hands off to Jabari Small, powers his way down to the 3-yard line, fighting for a first down. They shove him all the way close to the end zone, waiting for a sign. Touchdown, Tennessee. Tennessee leading 52-7, and Milton fires over the middle to Holiday. He gets to the 20, to the 10, crank up Rocky Top, touchdown. Tennessee wins against Ball State 59-10.
59-10 the final. The Vols start out the season 1-0. Now, folks, throughout the next hour, we would love for you to tweet at us using the hashtag The Extra Point Show. Send us your comments and questions about the game. We'll check the Extra Point Twitter feed and try to get some answers with you with courtesy of our friend Brent Hubbs again from VolQuest.com. That's one segment down, but plenty more to come, including our weekly look at Tennessee football recruiting. That's next on the Extra Point Show. Stay with us.
More Extra Point is coming your way next. Sponsored by your East Tennessee GMC dealers.
Welcome back to the Extra Point Show. Glad you're here with us and hope you'll be here every week throughout this 2022 football season. A lot of excitement building up to this season. Stadium renovations, a lot of talent back in year 2 of Josh Heupel's system, and the Volunteers wouldn't disappoint again in their opener against the Cardinals. First ever meeting between these two teams, the Cards out of the Mid-American Conference and trying a little razzle-dazzle early. Didn't work! Quarterback John Paddock is picked off by Tamarian McDonald, as we mentioned, and that would lead directly to his roommate, Jalen Hyatt, catching a touchdown pass on the very next play from scrimmage. Quick 7-0 lead for the Big Orange. Quarterback, team leader, and Heisman hopeful Hendon Hooker was ready to go. 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns. The second to sophomore Walker Merrill right there, his first as of all. Also scoring his first was freshman running back Dylan Sampson, number 24. Good to see him get into the checkerboards. And it was also great to see Joe Milton III settle in a bit. 8 of 9 for 113 yards and this 53-yard touchdown pass to Jimmy Holiday. The Vols won by 49 points, and really it could have been worse, but the team was hoping that all that scoring would be a byproduct of improved play, and for the most part, well, it was.
Certainly an efficient first outing for the Volunteers and quarterback Hendon Hooker, who rushed for 2 and threw 2 touchdown passes.
You know, my thing, I love to spread the ball around and get the ball in playmakers' hands. I got a chance to do that, and they all made plays.
10 different UT receivers were targeted against Ball State, including Jalen Hyatt, who says he predicted he'd catch the first score, and that roommate, Tamarian McDonald, would intercept a pass. As it turns out, those were the first couple plays from scrimmage Thursday night.
T-Mac says out of nowhere watching TV, he's like, man, I'm going to get me a pick. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to get one. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to score first. I'm going to score first on Thursday. He was like, yeah. And, you know, we go out there and do that. It's actually crazy. You think I'm lying, but I'm telling the truth.
The Vols were also efficient on defense. Improved tackling helped hold the Cardinals' rushing attack in check, just 74 yards on the night. So what about the performance and moving forward, Coach Heupel?
Yeah, keep pushing and competing. That was the message to our team during the course of training camp. It was the message going into this week. It will be the message as we get back in the building on Saturday with our players.
The Vols already back to work getting ready for Pitt next week. Thursday night, by the way, was the 50th career game as a college head coach for Josh Heupel. He's won 36 of those games, which puts him right up there since 2018 in FBS football with regards to wins as a head coach. All right, let's go to the Twitter feed if we can. Tennessee getting ready for Pitt, and Brent. Bigger concern next week, Vols' lack of pass rush. We mentioned they had 0 against Ball State, or Pitt's defensive line versus UT's defensive line. Now, this Pitt team was very physical against JT Daniels and that West Virginia offense last week. What do you think about this?
Well, I think it's a great question, first of all. One, you know, Caleb Slover, who's going to be the Pittsburgh quarterback to transfer in from USC, is not a mobile guy, okay? He's not a guy who's going to run around. So he got knocked around a little bit by the West Virginia defensive front, which surprised me with the amount of sacks. I think it was 4 or 5 that Pittsburgh gave up. The hard part to answer that question is Tennessee's offensive line was not tested at all on Thursday night because of the way Ball State played. They did not blitz any. So I'm going to say that the bigger question, the bigger challenge, unknown, concern, whatever adjective you want to use there, Rick, is it's Tennessee's offensive line. You're splitting time with 2 guys at left tackle. You're not exactly established there. And then how do the backs and tight ends handle pass protection moving forward? Hendon Hooker's legs can get you out of trouble. He can bail you out of some trouble that way. But I had a conversation with Cade Mays and I had a conversation with some returning offensive linemen over the summer, and they all to a man said what Pat Narduzzi does, the Pitt head coach, who's a defensive minded guy, he's as exotic as anybody on third down. So Tennessee's got to be third in manageable situations. They can't be in third predictable, which is a third and obvious passing down. They've got to do a good job of managing the sticks and being in third and multiple. What I mean by that is you can run it, you can have a lot of options out of there, because if you get into that third and long, Pat Narduzzi is going to blitz from all different directions. He's going to twist, stunt, do different things, which is not only going to challenge your offensive line, it's going to challenge your running back in pass protection, it's going to challenge your tight ends in pass protection, and you're probably going to help your left tackle some with some tight end help or some slide protection with backs and everything else. So there's a real challenge there, I think, for the offensive line.
Speaking of left tackle, Gerald Mincey got his first start as a volunteer the other night. How'd you think he did?
Well, I thought he and J.J. Crawford both did fine, but again, I don't know how much they were tested, because it's a three-man front. You've got 5 to block 3. You got a lot of help there. You know, there was not a whole lot of, hey, is the safety coming? Are they bringing an outside backer? They didn't do a lot of twists. They being Ball State, was very generic up front, very kind of predictable up front, I thought. And as a result of that, you just don't know. I don't think either one of those guys did bad with what they were asked to do and the challenge in front of them. They handled themselves very well. It's just a whole different challenge this week at Pittsburgh. All right.
Folks, coming up, we're going to dig even deeper into the game last Thursday night with our weekly Inside the Numbers segment. That's coming up next on the Extra Point Show. Stay with us.
More Extra Point is coming your way next. Sponsored by your East Tennessee GMC dealers.
Yeah, I can move in there. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good. Attaboy. Thank you, sir. And Kurt, just FYI, we're going to record a quick segment, if that's okay, after this, and probably Well, thanks for being with us again today. Rick Russo alongside Mr. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest.com. If you're new to the show, each week we like to dig a little deeper and go inside the numbers, and that's what we're doing right now. And Brent, this first number has to do with the amount of points being scored by Josh Heupel's offense.
Well, you mentioned he's won 36 of his 50 games as head coach, and one of the reasons why is because they put points on the board. Now, fans love points. That's why Danny White sold a bunch of new season tickets. That's why they're doing some renovations in Neyland Stadium. Here it is, 7 times. That's the number of times in his head coaching career at Tennessee, which is now 14 games, that this program has scored 45 points or more. That's an exciting brand of football. That's what Josh Heupel's all about. Now, you're going to have to go do it against the big boys. Don't get me wrong. That's what you got to do. But he did it against SEC opponents, and he did what he needed to do on Thursday night, Rick, and that is that offense got rolling. When you bring 4 offensive linemen back, you bring your leading receiver back, you bring your tailback back, you bring your quarterback back, you're supposed to be able to score points. That's what they did. 7th time in 14 games that they have scored 45 points or more. Pretty impressive.
Our second group of numbers, Brent, has to do with what we were talking about earlier, and that's the efficiency of quarterback Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, I just love the way he played. And you know, when you look at it, he's 18 of 25 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Since becoming the starter against Tennessee Tech 12 games ago, he's accounted for 38 touchdowns as the Vols quarterback with his legs and his arm. That's how you win, Rick. I don't care what level of football you're playing.
Sure.
If you're going to John Tarleton Field here in Knoxville and you're going to watch
just
the
down Sutherland Avenue.
Right, you're going to watch the 10, 11-year-old boys play, the best team out
Sure.
there is going to have a quarterback who can play.
Yeah.
If you're going to watch the NFL, there's a reason Tom Brady's still playing at 49 or 8 or 7 or 64, whatever age he is right now, because he can still be effective at that position. You cannot win in football at any level without good quarterback play. Hendon Hooker gives Tennessee good quarterback play. He's done it since he got into the starting lineup, and he's only continuing to grow.
All right, next group of numbers here, 218 yards. Tennessee's rushing output last
We
Thursday
talked
night.
about that in the first segment, too.
Yeah.
You look at it, out of the 14 games as a head coach at Tennessee, Josh Heupel's offense, that pass-happy offense, Rick, 9 times they've got 200 yards rushing or more. They want to run the football.
But what's the old saying? You coaches down the line, to win in the SEC, you still have to be able to rush the football.
Yeah, and they just do it a little differently because
Right.
they've got everybody spread out, but they run that midline inside run, that zone stuff there that really is effective. That
Jalen
gets
Wright
them
getting it
going.
done there.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and they have to be able to effectively run the football, and they did with 218 yards against Ball State. Here's another stat in that 218 yards before we go to the next one. Not only did they average 4.3 yards a carry, there wasn't a tailback on the roster who had a negative rushing yard. And if you go back in that game, Jalen Wright had a 4th and 1 where he was hitting the backfield right on the quad, and he bounced off of it and still got the first down. Again, something Jerry Mack, the running backs
gonna
coach,
say,
has
Jerry
talked
Mack
about.
working with those guys.
He's talked about the
Yep.
+2 mantra, falling forward, getting 2 extra yards. Those backs fell forward. Again, small sample size, lots more tests coming, but that's a nice start for that running back room.
And once again, going up against that defensive line next week of the Pitt Panthers. All right, our next number, boy, we talked about this a couple times this morning, but 0 number of sacks, and I know Tim Banks would like to see that improve moving forward.
Yeah, and Rodney Garner would as well.
Yeah.
Byron Young's got to use his hands better,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I think it was a frustrating night for those ends because Ball State was getting it out of their hand real quick. I don't think that they didn't twist, they didn't do a lot of stunts and a lot of exotic stuff. But there's going to be a real emphasis from Rodney Garner on the practice field, and there has been this weekend as Tennessee's continued to work to get ready for Pitt to be a more effective pass rushing team. They've got to play in the backfield more. A year ago, over 100 tackles for loss. They did not have, I think they had 2 against Ball State. They've got to be better in the backfield. They've got to get in the backfield. They're going to play a quarterback on Saturday that likes to stand in the pocket. They have got to get to him, and they've got to make him uncomfortable and Stover, because if they don't make Slover uncomfortable, he'll pick them apart in the middle of the field. Tennessee's got to find a way to get to the quarterback. It's been a huge offseason emphasis. It has to continue, and it has to be better than it was Thursday night.
Some good points made, no doubt about that, Brent. Also, before we go to break, Tennessee played 17 true freshmen the other night, which was big. We mentioned Gerald Mincy getting the start. Also getting the start, haven't mentioned him yet, but Brew McCoy was a part of Tennessee's offense and played well in his first outing for the
No
Big Orange.
question. It looked like he belonged. He did not look lost. He didn't look like he was confused. He didn't run side to side. You like his frame. You like his size and what he can do. He's going to be a big factor and a big help for Hendon Hooker. And I'll give the staff credit. They talked about building depth and playing depth. With the exception of a couple spots, I thought their starting safeties played a little longer than they had to. But other than that, they got some guys on the field early and got them involved. 7 different receivers, I think, caught balls from Hendon Hooker, which is a good sign. He's continued to move the ball around, and they're playing more wide receivers there, not just Brew McCoy, but Ramel Keaton, Walker Merrill, some of these other guys as well. And then you played a couple of freshmen on defense. I thought Joshua Josephs on defense showed up a little bit as an end, didn't get to the quarterback, but is a guy who's going to be able to help them more and more as the season goes along. So they like this freshman class, and I think this freshman class is going to be able to help. Those transfers are going to be able to help them a little bit as well. Another guy who showed up a little bit was Wesley Walker, the transfer from Georgia Tech. So there was some positives there. The question is, how much of a jump do they make from week 1 to week 2 as they step out on the road and go take on a Pittsburgh team that's obviously going to be a lot more physical than what they played with Ball State.
Coaches like to see that improvement from week 1 to week 2. We'll talk with ESPN.com senior writer and WVLT contributor Chris Lowe next to get his thoughts on UT Ball State and what lies ahead for the Big Orange. That's next on the Extra Point Show. Stay with us, folks. And welcome back to the Extra Point Show. As promised, here's WVLT contributor Chris Lowe with his thoughts on Thursday night's game and Tennessee football.
We know what we thought we knew about this Tennessee football team. The Vols opening the 2022 season, scoring a ton of points, playing fast, and just absolutely destroying Ball State, the worst team in the MAC conference. I don't think anybody's surprised that Tennessee won this football game handily. A lot of good things. I think when you look at Hendon Hooker and his receivers, he spread the football around. Cedric Tillman, one of the better receivers in the SEC, not a huge factor, but again, Hooker able to find other guys. He's running the football efficiently, throwing it. So really picked up right where he left off last year as one of college football's most efficient quarterbacks. Not sure how much we found out about Tennessee in this first game. They were so much more talented and deeper than Ball State, but we're going to find out a lot this weekend against Pittsburgh. It's a Pittsburgh team that's battle-tested, coming off of just an excellent win over West Virginia, one of the best games of that Thursday night. A Pittsburgh team that's tough and physical. They're good up front defensively. New quarterback, Kadon Slovis, and a Pittsburgh team that threw the ball and ran the ball equally well. Here's what I want to know about Tennessee. Tennessee last year in their close losses had those lapses, a quarter and a half, where they just simply couldn't recover. They didn't play well on offense. They didn't play well on defense. Can they avoid those lapses here in week 2 against a Pittsburgh team that will test them? And if they do have those lapses, can they recover? You know, can they come back and win the football game? I think this team under Josh Heupel was more equipped to do that. They're playing more players on defense. But in this game, and Pitt's a great example of that last year in the second quarter, Tennessee was awful in the second quarter, and it cost them that game. So I think we find out how much this team has grown up. Still need to see defensively, do guys around a Byron Young, around a Tyler Behrens, we know those kids can play. Do they grow up? Do they develop? On the back end, Pitt will test them on the back end, Tennessee. How much better are they? Are we seeing receivers run free in the defensive backfield? Can they get to Kadon Slovis and really sort of impact him, get them in third and long? So a lot of questions on defense for Tennessee. I do think this is a deeper Tennessee defense, but we don't know for sure, again, because Ball State just did not present much of a challenge. We'll find out, though, on Saturday on the road against the Pittsburgh Panthers. For WVLT Sports, I'm Chris Lowe.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll talk more about the Panthers later in the broadcast. Big winners in that backyard brawl with West Virginia. But let's talk a little SEC right now, if you will. The conference 13-0 here in opening weekend with one more game to go tonight, LSU and Florida State down in New Orleans. But the teams looked pretty good, and Alabama did what Alabama does. Georgia was Georgia. Texas A&M won. Kentucky won. But Kentucky goes to Florida, and that's the team I want to talk about now. The Gators maybe not supposed to win last night against number 7 Utah, but they came ready to play, especially number 15. Is it Team Tebow? No, it's Anthony Richardson, and this young man looked good last night.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's some real development from him in Billy Napier's system. I think he's, for Florida fans, they still want to see him throw it a little better, but his legs were obviously a huge catalyst for what they were about last night. And his legs gets that offense out of a lot of trouble. They were fortunate late. Right here, just a terrible decision by the quarterback. You've got Utah in a situation. They can kick they're in position to kick a field goal to send it into overtime. You cannot take that chance to throw the football there. You got to throw a ball and throw a route where the only guy who's going to catch it's your guy. You can't throw it into traffic like that. But that's the scary part of Florida right there is Anthony Richardson's legs, because that's still the best thing he does is run around.
And right there it was 4th and 3, and it's like Utah knew what was coming and they couldn't stop it. They pick up the first down and then go on to get in to take the lead, and then had to hold on for dear life. Amari Burney with the interception. But Florida, some people thinking, well, you know, they might be a little bit of a pushover with the new head coach and everything. Right out the gate, it doesn't really look like that.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I mean,
they got talent.
Florida quit last year on Dan Mullen.
No, yeah.
I mean, they just quit on him. I don't care what anybody else wants to say, whatever. That team was done. They had no use for Dan Mullen. They quit. They're not going to quit on Billy Napier, and that's a great start for Florida. Now they've got Kentucky coming in. So instead, a lot of people, or not a lot, but some people thought there was a chance Florida could be 0-2 to start the gate. They may very well be 2-0 out of the gate here, because Kentucky was in a tight ball game with Miami at the half. Kentucky's offensive line looked suspect last night. Did not play particularly well. We'll see how they grow from week 1 to week 2. But that's a game now that looks a little different than you thought it might look like on the schedule at the start. The one thing that you look around the league, you got pretty good quarterback play from a lot of different places. Stetson Bennett at Georgia was clearly dominant. You know what Alabama's got at the quarterback position.
Jefferson at Texas A&M.
Yeah, KJ Jefferson for Arkansas played particularly well yesterday as well. So you got a lot of teams. Vanderbilt's getting solid quarterback play right now. So you got a lot of teams whose quarterback play has been good early on. We'll see as they get into more complex defenses. Everybody kind of gets a beat on what they have, how that changes. How are teams going to attack Anthony Richardson now that you got an idea of what Billy Napier likes to do? A lot of sideways passes from Billy Napier last night against Utah. Not a ton of stuff deep down the middle of the field, a lot of shallow crossing stuff, and then a lot of, hey, we've got to have a play. Go use your legs, big fella, and go make a play. And Anthony Richardson did that.
He did. One area, though, I thought Florida was a little vulnerable was stopping the run.
Yeah, they did. They gave up over 200 yards rushing, which was a bit of a surprise. So we'll see where they're at moving forward. They had a little bit of a hard time with the quarterback run as well. Utah's quarterback got going a little bit. So
Cam Rising.
we'll see what happens there. I'm not saying Florida's a juggernaut, but I think the reality for any Tennessee fan who thought, well, Florida's not going to be very good. Florida has talent.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. You're going to see that tonight, too. Everybody's talking about LSU and, you know, boy, big changes. Great time to catch LSU. LSU still has talent. Ed Orgeron couldn't win with it. They quit on him as well. We'll see how they attack things tonight with Brian Kelly with the coaching change there. But those guys are playing hard. Okay, we saw that a year ago with Josh Heupel when he came in.
Sure.
Kids played hard.
Yeah.
Florida played hard last night.
Maybe not a juggernaut, but certainly not a pushover. Gators beat the Utes 29-26. All right, back to the Twitter feed, folks. We've got another question here to throw out at you before we go to break. Tennessee +2 in turnover margin. Good sign moving forward, Brent?
Well, I think that's what Tim Banks is all about. They want to be an offensive, defensive team. And what I mean by that is they want to play in the backfield, lots of tackles for loss. They're going to give up some yards. They're not going to build a wall and just shut everybody down. And they want to be, you know, aggressive in the back end and intercept some balls and create turnovers that way. So, yeah, it's a positive sign. I mean, obviously they got the interception on the first play from scrimmage with Tamarian McDonald. And then I thought Kamal Haddon's interception was just a really well-played ball. He played the route better than the receiver ran the route, to be honest with you. Really good play by Kamal Haddon. They need to be that kind of defense. They need to generate turnovers, create short fields if they're going to go and take a step forward defensively. They obviously have to be better on third down. We've talked about that. But they also have to generate some turnovers. So a solid start there. Was it perfect? It never is. But that was certainly a solid start for Tennessee against Ball State in terms of generating some turnovers and generating some points with their defense.
No question. All right, folks, coming up, the segment that separates us from all the other shows out there. Eric Kane and Austin Price of VolQuest.com talk Tennessee football recruiting. That is next on the Extra Point Show. Glad you're here. And our player of the game this week, no doubt. Number 5 off to a great start. 2 touchdown passes, 2 rushing passes, 18 completions, over 200 yards. Very efficient in Tennessee's win over Ball State. Let's go back to the Extra Point Twitter feed. Brent, the question is, any concern with Jawan Mitchell's injury moving forward? He didn't play this past week. Aaron Beasley did a good job filling in.
Yeah, I thought Beasley was the defensive player of the game. When you look at what Tennessee did, he was all over the field early in that game. Obviously helping create the turnover on play number 1, but I thought Beasley was heavier. I thought he played more physical. I thought Aaron Beasley had a really nice game. Jawan Mitchell, when asked about it after the game, Josh Heupel was really non-committal on exactly what was going on and was non-committal on him being available for this week against Pittsburgh. Mitchell's going to play this fall. It's not a season-ending deal or anything like that. I do expect him to be back. Don't know that he'll be back for Pittsburgh. It may be the following week against Akron before he gets there, but one of the luxuries for Tennessee is that you saw Aaron Beasley play particularly well, Rick. I think that's important. You also saw some Elijah Herring on the field as well as they continue to try to bolster some linebacker depth there. They would love to get Mitchell back, and if you get Mitchell, Beasley, and Banks, you got a pretty nice rotation of 3 guys there, something you didn't have the luxury of doing a year ago.
All right, folks, time for our final segment and look ahead to next week's opponent, the Pittsburgh Panthers. They came in here, Brent, last year and beat Tennessee. They've got a new quarterback. Kenny Pickett is gone. Keaton Slovis is in and was efficient in the win over West Virginia, although the Panthers are doing it with his legs right here, but the Panthers needed a pick 6 at the end to win this year's backyard brawl. They also have a running back. You'll see him right here coming out of the backfield, Rodney Hammond Jr. he was impressive as well in that win the other day.
Yeah, certainly, and that's a guy you've got to find on the field. I think the big thing that jumps out about Pitt's passing game that if I'm Tennessee that I'm looking at and we're focusing on this week is Slovis was 10 of 13 between the numbers, Rick. He really likes to work the middle of the football field. So Tennessee's linebacker drops are going to have to be good. Their secondary play and their safety spot's going to have to play well because they're going to try to attack Tennessee in the middle of the field. And then again, you see here they're bringing extra people. Wide open. I mean, it looked like West Virginia was going to go down and score right there. They were fortunate to get the pick six the way they did.
Not necessarily a bad pass there.
No, it was a great ball. He should have caught the ball. He was dead in the hands. I mean, he was wide open. Good play by J.T. Daniels. Kid just dropped the ball. But overall, you know, this is a Pitt team that a lot of emotion was spent last week in the backyard brawl. I'm sure they're glad to have the extra couple days to get ready. Tennessee's blitz protection, pass protection is going to have to be really good. And then again on defense, I think the middle of the field is an area to watch. Pitt will try to slip that running back out and get it to him in the open field. Pitt did not run the football very well against West Virginia, which is a bit of a surprise to me. It's a big game for Pitt, the Johnny Majors Classic. They're going to unveil a statue of Coach Majors.
How about that?
Up there as well this week. So this is a big game for them. Ranked as ever 17. The ACC did not have a very good week. They were not very impressive in week number 1. Pitt was the most impressive team, I guess, out of the ACC to this point. So we'll see what happens moving forward.
Real quick, Brent, largest crowd ever for a Pitt game at the former Heinz Field. I don't know that they'll have that same crowd this week, maybe, but Tennessee's used to playing in these big games.
They are. I mean, I think the bigger concern is how wet is it going to be? Is weather going to be a factor there more than the crowd? I don't think the crowd noise will bother Tennessee at all there.
All right, great to see you, partner.
Good to see you, man.
Back for another season, folks. We'll look for you again next week on the Big on the Extra Point Show. We'll see you. Have a great day.